Hey guys, Redneck Mini 14 here, and this is the kind of initial testing video with the Tapco 30 round magazines for the Mini 14. Now, I had a couple issues with these magazines. I mean, it's not necessarily the magazines, but the first one, I'll just roll in the footage right here. I couldn't get the magazine to seat on a closed bolt. Now, it could just be the fact that I'm not very experienced. I have trouble getting the factory 30 round magazine in the gun with a closed bolt, even when it's not loaded. But you know, it's probably just a training issue, but we'll try it some more later. But anyway, here's the footage of me trying to get the first magazine in on a closed bolt.
Is it on the hill? Or the one to the left of the target?
Now, as you can see there, I had quite a bit of trouble getting the first magazine in, and like I said, I have trouble getting even the factory 30 round magazine in on a closed bolt, even when it's empty. The 20 rounders I can get in really easy, and the 5 rounders I can get in really easy. Probably the reason that it's so hard to get it in is because if you look here, there's a lot of area in here that you have to go up into, and it's not like an AK where there's not, you know, a whole lot of area to stick the magazine into. With an AK, you know, the mag well is very, very short, and so it's just kind of like a hinge that you put in there and click it back. With a Mini 14 or an M14 or, you know, something with this kind of stock on it, the mag well is quite a bit deeper, and it causes it's harder to get the magazine in there with the rock back system. That's the only complaint I have about the Mini 14, is the fact that it's a rock back system instead of just like an AR-15 or an M1 carbine style where you just push it in and it locks into place. That's the only complaint I have about the Mini 14. Now, other than that, when I was shooting the gun with these magazines, I didn't have any problems, well, except for the fact that my brass travels so far that it was hitting the guys next to us, and they were kind of complaining. But I had no feeding issues whatsoever when I was shooting the first 60 rounds through these. By the way, when we took it out shooting, we took 100 rounds of this Perfecta 55 grain full metal jacket 223. Pretty good stuff. It's fairly cheap. It's $18.97 for a box of 50, so not too bad. My girlfriend, on the other hand, when she shot it, she had is probably, well, the first time she pulled the trigger, the gun didn't even go off, and I don't even know what happened there. I guess it was a hard primer or something with this Perfecta. I don't know. I have that kind of trouble from time to time in a lot of guns. Well, I mean, not a lot of guns, but I've had that happen in my M1 carbine, and of course it happens in 22 rimfires. But anyway, that was her first problem, and then the second problem is that there was a failure to eject, and I'll roll that footage in right here. Hold on. Failure to eject. Nope. Now, for that failure to eject, I'm not going to fault the magazine, because that kind of malfunction, I don't really see how that could be the fault of a magazine. I'm actually going to fault that to the break-in period of the gun. This gun is still very new in terms of number of rounds shot through it. It's had less than 300 rounds through it, and in my opinion, for a new gun, you gotta have between 300 and 500 rounds through the gun to break in the springs and all that. So, between 300 and 500 rounds, if you get an occasional failure to eject, which I've had failures to eject. I had one in this 5-rounder, and then I also had a couple in the factory 30-rounder. So, again, I haven't had a lot. I've had like 3 or 4 prior to the one with these magazines. So, I mean, it's not a lot. I've shot 260 rounds through this rifle so far, and only like 3 or 4 or 5, however many failures to eject that was. That's not a whole heck of a lot, especially for a brand new gun. Like I said, once I get like 500 rounds through it, and if it still has problems after that, then there may be something wrong with the gun, or maybe it's just the ammunition that I'm using. I don't know. But once it's broken in, it theoretically should function flawlessly with factory magazines. Maybe even these magazines, if I consider these to be outstanding magazines. But anyway, the first outing with these, we put 100 rounds through them, and they function just fine, in my opinion. I'll keep you updated if anything does go wrong. We'll probably do one more testing video with them. I'm not going to torture test them or anything, like drop them on there from like 5-foot distance or run over them with a truck. I'm not all about torture testing. I just want to know, will these magazines function in my gun? That's all. I'm not the kind of person to just buy a couple magazines and be like, oh, let's run over it with a truck and see if it functions. No, I don't do that because I don't want to waste my money and destroy my magazines. So anyway, so far so good, and I'm gonna keep using them. I'll keep you updated if I can ever get them seated on a closed bolt. Again, that's probably just my issue. I'm inexperienced with this system. It's still fairly new to me, and even with the factory magazines, I have trouble sometimes. It's just a training issue, really. But if I find that I can never get it seated on a closed bolt, I'll definitely let you know about that. But anyway, that's the first testings with these magazines, and I'm going to keep using them, and if I find that they're awesome magazines, I'll probably get some more, because these are a lot cheaper than factory 30-rounders. They're like a third of the price of a factory 30-rounder, so it's a good way to stock up on magazines. Anyway, that's all I had to say for this video. Subscribe to my channel, like me on Facebook. I'm RedneckMini14, and until next time, be safe.